staff. I'm Bob Zinkowski, the Township Manager here in Radnor. Welcome to this meeting. Our police department has been working on this now for well over a month. Preparing for this, I think we're well prepared for the influx of a lot of people into our community here and preparing and safeguarding our community for all the visitors that'll be coming and descending upon the Philadelphia region, as well as Radnor Township here. So this is an opportunity for us to put out a lot of the information, the planning that has been taking place, a lot of effort and coordination about traffic control, how we're going to move people throughout the township has taken place. You'll see a lot of information that'll be put out here in these meetings. It'll be posted to our website. These meetings are going out live to the community, all three of these meetings, and then will be rerun as well. So without further ado and less of me and more of these guys behind us here, Superintendent Bill Colarulo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bill Colarulo. The Township Manager issued a mandate to us a couple of months ago that he wanted us to be proactive and, of course, pass on to the community any information we had regarding the papal visit. As I mentioned to a couple of the reporters I spoke to a little while ago, and like we mentioned this morning, it seems like ever since it was announced that the Pope was coming to Philadelphia, it was more of a stressful event rather than a joyous occasion. You know, you hear the news reports from Philadelphia, and I love Philadelphia, but it's, if you come here, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is going to be closed. If you leave, don't try to get back in because you're not going to. And as it turned out, people started to dread the fact that the Pope was coming, and it shouldn't be that way. But under the direction of the Township Manager, the people behind me, which is Lieutenant Chris Flanagan, who runs Special Operations, Lieutenant Andy Block, who runs Operations, and Sergeant George Smith, who is our Strategic Planning Officer. They've been coordinating to put this plan together to educate the people of Radnor and to answer any questions you have at the end of this meeting. Also, I failed to mention at our 7:30 meeting with the business people, Sergeant Joe McGuire not only is the Radnor Fire Chief, but he's also been involved in the meetings as well. The people behind me have been going to meetings with the county and also some meetings in Philadelphia. They've been working with the public transportation people as well. And to Sergeant McGuire's right is Bob Tate, and the Township Manager commissioned him, I guess for lack of a better term, that he will be the public information officer during the papal visit. So the people behind me will give you a little bit of what we have here. They'll show you some maps about what to expect, and then of course any questions you have, we'll try to answer them as best as we can. This is a pretty solid plan we have, but again, it's going to be fluid enough that we'll be able to adapt to any changes. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start with an overview of why we're here and get down to the end where we go over the specific details of how Radnor is going to manage the papal visit, and we're excited to share this information with you. As you're aware, the Pope is coming into Washington, New York, and then Philadelphia. However, the World Meeting of Families is going to start the week prior to his arrival on the weekend, and there'll be several events in the city of Philadelphia, including the Pope's arrival and some parades, and that will start to have a mushroom effect out to the 5-county region. Every county in this area is affected in some way or another during this event. This was designated a national security special event. That means that the United States Secret Service was placed in charge of the event, given authority and power by the Department of Homeland Security. What's important about that is that you, as our audience knows, that they became the lead agency and could make rules, shut down roadways, because those roadways and other things in some of their guidelines are what is affecting Radnor Township in particular. So we want you to understand that by that designation, we are in compliance and following their directions and making changes based on what they feel is a security assessment. Delaware County established our local emergency planning committee, and what that means is that Delaware County teamed up with all the agencies such as Radnor Township, every other borough or municipality, and we are coordinating efforts, and that's one of Sergeant Smith's responsibilities, and he'll go over how the EOC works with that. But we are teamed up with Delaware County, and we'll go over how we may use those resources or they may use our resources. Second part is Radnor Township. On August 17th, the Radnor Board of Commissioners declared it a state of emergency to visit. And that's not because we are here to scare anybody or we think it's going to get out of control. We think we're going to have a wonderful event. We're going to support all the visitors. and the people who are having special events here locally. But what it does is it empowers us to do any special needs, or if we have to shut down a road. It also will allow George Smith and the finance department that if there is an opportunity to recoup the costs that are involved in this event, that by having that state of emergency, we can show that we were under that declaration, and we can then recoup the money if that becomes available. Let's get right into the event and the timeline. As I said, the 22nd starts several series of events, but specifically Philadelphia. We expect to see potentially traffic Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday be an increase in the area. The Pope will be going to Washington, and then on Thursday, New York. Friday, he'll still be in New York, and that's Friday is kind of the day we expect to see some changes here. We expect there to be the most amount of traffic. We've met with the school districts. We're here meeting with all the other people to say anticipate some potential delays and be prepared for that. Saturday is when the Pope arrives. Once that happens, things will dramatically change in Philadelphia and in the border of Lower Merion. In particular, Friday night around approximately 10 p.m. is when 76 will be closed down, or they're going to begin the work on it, is approximately 10 p.m. And that's when we should start to see some ripple effect to the papal visit. Now, when that's shut down, then the Blue Route and the Lancaster Avenue exit will be basically the first stop if you did not make plans to get off on Conshohocken. So we expect to see that. We'll go over some other road closures in a little bit. And then Sunday, September 27th, is the peak day that we'll go over some of the details of each of the train station, but the main mass, will be the peak event, and we expect to see the most amount of traffic in Radnor on that particular time. We're very cautious that we have a couple handouts for you. There's 3 handouts that are critical. This is one that has all of the information about Philadelphia, Delaware County, and the actual papal visit. They're available at the back of the room in case you didn't get it, but that will give you websites with the latest and most up-to-date information. What's going to happen where we'll be affected, again, is major road closures. During that time, or starting from Friday at 10 p.m. on, the Benjamin Franklin Bridge will be closed to all vehicle traffic, I-76 eastbound from 476 to 95, and 76 from westbound I-95 to U.S. Route 1. I-676 in both directions from 76 to I-95, and U.S. Route 1 in both directions from U.S. 30 to Belmont Avenue. What that means is City Line Avenue. The big ones will be City Line Avenue being closed and 76. That's what we feel that will affect are traversing our township. Plus, you have to remember as well, Paoli train station is going to be used as another SEPTA event or large pickup, and we believe a lot of people will be passing in the same area. This is just a quick diagram of the red line is basically everybody who's going to be affected. As you can see, it's pretty large. Basically, SEPTA is going from 232 train stations on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, to approximately 32, where they have a special transportation plan, which is outlined in the second handout. And it will also give you live web information in regards to what's going to be open and closed. We're going to review some things for people trying to get people in and out of work, but we believe this is an important one, including the possible effects of Monday based on how quickly they can clear out the city following the Mass on Sunday. So please pick that up. We're going to go over some general considerations for you, whether it's you personally or your business or institution. Traffic congestion, unprecedented. We kind of talked about that already. It's supposed to be one of the largest public events ever on the East Coast. Planned and unplanned road closures. What we do want to do, as the chief said, we may have to transition from our EOC, will give us live information. We may have to make a road closure or not based on moving traffic. Our goal is to safely get pedestrians where they need to go and keep the flow of traffic moving for all those obvious reasons. According to them, the airport will remain open, will not be impacted. Impact on workers' schedules and transportation routes to work. That's a big deal, we think, for schools, depending on how you get your cafeteria or your healthcare center. I know we have some healthcare providers. Want to make sure that you have time and you've planned out a way to get those people in and out of work, because we know how valuable they are to you. Rail and bus transportation schedules are changed. The Route 100 and the Paoli-Thorndale line will not function in normal transportation modes. I think everybody's aware of that, but we're going to make sure you hear that. Some bus service will remain in play, but you have to expect delays. What the other consideration is, how will it affect your daily operations, such as getting people in and out of work, planning and allocation of supplies, deliveries for the week. The township manager has authorized all our fuel facilities, all deliveries to be done basically the week before his arrival to ensure that we don't have any disruption in service or capabilities. You guys should plan the same way based on what they're telling us. For those who have a lot of different opportunities or businesses that are open, potential language barriers due to influx of visitors. Thursday through Monday is the most significant. Friday through Sunday night, we believe, will be the biggest impact just based on the mass. School schedule adjustments. Many of the Catholic schools are closed. Universities and other things are closing, and other smaller schools and nursery schools are closing. Several of the local businesses, like an architect here, is closing, asking everybody to work from home on Friday just to lighten up the traffic. So please be prepared for that. And remember, your staff may have to make adjustments based on childcare and other things. We do recommend, as we have ordered a large sum of gas to be ready to fuel our fleet, please make sure that you filled up that weekend beforehand for your private vehicle and all your work vehicles. Specifically in Radnor, we could see up to 20,000 visitors. And that would affect potentially the road restrictions. The weekend school activities have all been canceled in the major school districts, and again, the Catholic schools are also closed. We want you to be practical, plan ahead. We don't think you have to be afraid. We don't think we have to run around, but we just want to have some extra provisions, extra thought into how you would do it. If you need medicine, make sure you get it maybe before the weekend comes up. Grocery shopping, gas, family cars. Checked on planned appointments, make sure that the places that you have things scheduled are open and have the capability to take you before you take a trip and congest the traffic. Plan on travel and accommodations now for family or business, especially if people are coming into town for that event. And make sure that you're ready with our Radnor Township notification form. I'm not going to go into it now, but we have our staff here to make sure that you will get the latest alerts. As our EOC is set up, we will be constantly updating our Civic Ready and our notifications and website as the event continues. We're now going to go into some safety and security operations, and Lieutenant Andy Block.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see everybody here this afternoon for this collaboration and partnership, and I'd like to thank Lieutenant Flanagan for his information. What we want to do over just the next few minutes, because I know your time's very precious, is just to provide some safety and security tips for everybody that's in the room with respect to your student bodies, to your physical plants and whatnot. And it's also it's good personal information. It's not about doom and gloom. We're here to support the whole papal visit, and obviously, as Lieutenant Flanagan said, there's going to be a lot of influx into Radnor Township, especially with motor vehicle traffic. So a couple areas we want you to be aware of is when you're dealing with your specific properties, if you see anything that's suspicious, and we'll talk about suspicious persons initially, all right, we want you to call 911. A lot of times people will rationalize, I see something, but I don't want to bother the police. We want to be bothered, especially during these events and up to and including it starting now. The reason being is we want to take that intelligence information and we want to refine it and check it out. So it's important that you call. Sometimes, unfortunately, something will happen and people will call several hours or sometimes several days later saying, we have observed this. So when we're dealing with some suspicious persons, if somebody's acting in an odd manner, all right, that's something we want to be aware of. Especially this time of year, if they're wearing an overabundance of clothing, heavy clothing, and weather like this, all right, it should be a cue and a clue for you to notify local law enforcement and run it through your organization as well. If the person's requesting detailed information about your institution or property, that's a concern. Again, that's something you want to notify the police department or local law enforcement about. And also taking photos or videos of the infrastructure of the properties in the area. It's important that it may be innocent, however, we will come, it'll be vetted out through the police department and properly investigated. Also, with respect to the suspicious persons that we want you to be aware of, if they start inquiring or asking questions about security operations, we want to be notified about this. It may not seem uncommon simply because there's been so much attention directed to the papal visit on what everybody's doing. Some people in general may start asking those questions, but still it's something that we need to be aware of, and I'll explain in a few minutes why and what we do with that information. Also, if they're taking notes or drawing diagrams of the area of a location of a building, it's a 911 call. If you happen to speak to this individual and they act with irrational behavior or they avoid eye contact, things of that nature, your gut usually tells you what's right and what's wrong. And if your gut's telling you this doesn't feel right, all right, again, you should notify local law enforcement. If the person you see continues to revisit the same location, it's another concern. Why are they coming back? what's the interest with the property or the location specifically. And if you do speak with them and you feel that they have a cover story that's very weak or it's not believable, again, it's a situation that what we want you to do is to address these situations by calling 911. It's very important. Also, with the heightened level of awareness for motor vehicles. As Lieutenant Flanagan stated, 10 o'clock on Friday evening, they will shut down eastbound 76 to Schuylkill Expressway, which is basically going to push a fair amount of motor vehicle traffic into Radnor, most likely down Route 30. So with that influx of traffic coming into the township, there may be vehicles that may get lost, they may come off the beaten track, but nonetheless, if you see a slow-moving vehicle or a repeat vehicle that comes through your facility at odd hours, if you have cameras, surveillance, things of that nature, again, we want to be notified of this so we can check it out, specifically with the vehicles, the make, the model, if there's a license plate number, and the amount of occupants in the vehicle itself. If they're parked and occupied, the times and the locations, how many people are in the vehicle, and if it's at unusual hours and locations, that's all pertinent information. You may not have somebody 24/7 on your property, but you may have people remotely monitoring it, and if they see this activity, please make the phone call to us. Also, with respect to abandoned vehicles, if a vehicle shows up that you're not familiar with in your neighborhood or on your property, that's a cue and a clue that we need to know about. We want to go and we want to investigate that. And if you, for some reason, you walk by the vehicle and there's suspicious items in there or there's suspicious smells coming from it, that's another clue or cue, again, that you need to notify local law enforcement about. The other thing that we want just to stimulate your conscience about is the lone wolf ideology. It's a situation that generally we deal with throughout this country now in light of terrorism, but it does date back somewhat. And basically, the lone wolf operates under their own volition. They adapt a platform or a cause. It could be ISIS, it could be the Earth Liberation Front, the Animal Liberation Front, and these people generally think outside the box. While they have that ideology, they don't report to anybody. They operate as their own, so nobody is really capable of what they're doing. Simply because they're not reporting to a cell or a hierarchy within the terrorist organization. And examples of this that we've seen over the last 30 years in the United States are Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, Timothy McVeigh, who was part of the Oklahoma City bombing, and also Colleen LaRose, who was Jihad Jane. So these are some of the things we want people to be aware of. We don't want to scare anybody. It's not gloom and doom. It's just a heightened level of awareness and security for our communities and your institutions. Additional awareness, if you have abandoned backpacks, bags, suitcases, anything that's left at your location, all right, don't approach it. Just call and we'll have an officer come over and investigate it. And there are other resources and assets that we will have available to us from this point moving forward up through the event and shortly thereafter. So it's not something you want to talk or go up and disturb. The other thing is if you have your central delivery, your central supply, you receive packages on a daily basis. If you receive packages that nobody knows about, it's suspicious in nature, again, don't disturb it. Notify the police, will come up and we'll have it examined. And also, most importantly, we want you to monitor your social media. Everybody, just about everybody today is on some form of social media. The schools have social media. Monitor it. If you start picking up information on there that is concerning you, you need to notify the law enforcement, wherever it might be. Specifically in Radnor Township, it's the Radnor Police Department. The reason being is, once we're notified of it, there are local, state, and federal fusion centers that are in place now. However, with the advent of the visit of the pontiff, those fusion centers are in overdrive. So if we get one piece of information, we give it to the fusion center. If there's another jurisdiction that picks up another piece of information, they submit it. And what the fusion centers do is they start connecting the dots. So something that might seem inconsequential to us or you here in the township may be part of a bigger picture. And that's what it's all about, is intelligence-led policing right now to keep everybody safe. So just remember that information, that safety never takes a holiday. The other thing is, by the order of the Superintendent of Police, Superintendent Colarulo, he is responsible for issuing the vendor permits, which permits people to go throughout the township doing door-to-door solicitation, selling items and whatnot. For this weekend and this weekend only, those vendor permits have been suspended. We are not issuing any of them. And if you have any vendors that come onto your property, we need to be notified about that, because it's a violation of the township ordinance and the police will respond, simply because we cannot verify the authenticity of the items that they may be trying to sell or peddle throughout the township at the different locations. So it's very important, if you have any types of those vendors show up, to notify us, and we'll come and we'll speak with them. In closing on my portion, just remember, see something, say something, all right? Don't try to internalize it or rationalize it. Notify the police and we'll come. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Sergeant George Smith, who is our Emergency Operations Coordinator. Sergeant Smith.
Thank you, sir. And I thought my part was the doom and gloom, all right? Now, this is a joyous event, and we really have embraced this total event. And through the guidance of the Township Manager and the Board of Commissioners, it gives us a certain flexibility. In the Police Department, I hold the Strategic Planning Officer title and role, but overall, when there's an emergency like Sandy or hurricanes or events of this magnitude, I also hold the Emergency Management Coordinator position, which helps facilitate all these moving parts. You saw a lot of police up here, but the fire, the ambulance, the public works, the administrative staff are all a big part. Not to even mention the educational facilities, the healthcare facilities, all of those moving parts too that have a big impact on how we're able to do our job. And that's what we wanted to do, is help facilitate you not missing a beat. We call it continuity of operations. Yes, the Pope is coming. It's a great day for Philadelphia and the community. We will activate the EOC. We'll be here 24 hours. It'll be in this room. The 610-688-0503 number will be manned by a person throughout the whole weekend. And should you have an emergency, you call 911. Like Lieutenant Block said, something suspicious, dial 911 immediately. You'll get immediate police response because we're taking a two-phase approach to this influx of people. We're going to have normal police operations, and then we're going to lay over the top of it the special event planning. So ample police sources on the road will not be taken away to answer or to work for the parking, the traffic, or any of the SEPTA events. So we're going to operate 100% fully normally and have extra personnel for the operations center. The overview for the PLE Thorndale Radnor Station, pretty simplistic plan. The major things for the institutions that are here, Cabrini College and Eastern University, I would implore you to get out to your student populace. King of Prussia Road will be closed. From both of your facilities, there are far better ways to get into the center of Wayne or to get where you need to do instead of coming down King of Prussia Road to Matson Ford, then going into County Line Road, down to Spring Mill Road, because you're going to be hitting a lot of congestion for the people going to the Villanova stop. So I would push that, I would recommend pushing that information out, that find an alternate route, which most of them should be familiar with. As it's pictured here, King of Prussia Road will be our primary enter and exit point. It'll be two-way traffic all the way up to Radnor-Chester Road, at which point Radnor-Chester Road will be one direction southbound to Lancaster Avenue. The two-way traffic was there to facilitate Penn Medicine that is open. We don't want to adversely affect their operations since the Pope and the, as you've heard, the boxes down in there kind of, slow their hospital responses down. So that facility will remain open and it will be pivotal in our planning. One-way road down Radnor-Chester Road. Most of the parking we're going to contain into the 130, 150, 170 building. On the north side of the road, of the railroad tracks, Archbishop Carroll, Radnor Corporate Center are open for parking. So we believe, based on the numbers that were just updated today, we're in the 16,000 range for both stops. So we're about 6,000 on Saturday and about 7,000 for Sunday. And then the Villanova stop is a moving target right now. They're still about 2,000. There'll be road closures, and the reason being these road closures will have manned police officers to help get directions and give directions to those outside the area. Google is good, but it can only get you so far. So we're trying to help make it a little bit more efficient. And one of the ways we're doing it is we're trying to establish variable message boards, but we're going to mandate a pedestrian walk zone from the 150, 130, 170 building because the standard sidewalks will not facilitate the hundreds of people that we expect going to the station. Crossing over King of Prussia Road with the traffic there, it would just not be a safe situation. So that's why King of Prussia Road's closed from Matson Ford to Radnor Chester. So once we get them across the road, SEPTA will get them on, and I've learned today SEPTA is moving resources around. So the 10-minute wait queuing up in this station may actually be down to 8 minutes, which is very beneficial for us. So what we plan on doing is instituting variable message boards throughout Lancaster Avenue, 476, and key components with specific messages for Radnor Station or Villanova Station to get people as quickly as possible to their destination. Because once they're off the road, it frees up that space for somebody else to take it, and it works in everybody's interest. So these are just ideas of how they're going to be positioned with certain messages throughout. This one specifically, we're working in tandem with Villanova, who are assisting us with this board and has allowed us access to put our message up in condition with theirs. So they have priests coming into the local area that are going to be parking in a certain location opposite of where the public is allowed. So we're going to facilitate that, and it's a benefit for all of us. We believe, as Lieutenant Block said, we are going to get crushed with traffic coming southbound. A stat I saw earlier, 80% of the Catholics in the United States live east of the Mississippi, well within drivable range of this event. Most of them are in the Northeast and around Michigan. To get from Michigan over here, you're going to drive 76 straight across, and the first exit's going to be Lancaster Avenue that you're going to be able to get off at. So we anticipate a huge impact from that, but we're ready for it. We want to get people in and move in and get them parked and get them down to Philadelphia as quickly as we can. So on both northbound exits and southbound exits, we're having variable message boards in place with proper messages to help facilitate them quickly get into their lane so there are no crashes, because obviously you've driven around here before. As soon as one crash happens, the second and the third and the fourth happen. We don't want that. It ties up too many resources, and we don't want people hurt. So those are just pictographs of what we anticipate. Matson Ford Road, obviously, as I said, to the educational facilities of Cabrini and Eastern is one of their major impacts. So if you could push that out, that'd be great. And for safety purposes, for the pedestrian, Villanova Station, we have a lot of experience with large groups down at the Villanova Station. We don't anticipate too big of a problem down there, but we're facilitating one inbound lane and then one outbound lane by the chapel. And most of the parking will be taken up by SEPTA guests going into Philadelphia. You'll see the long red lines on South Ithan Avenue. We're closing the southbound lane and using it as a pedestrian walkway to facilitate the pedestrians down into the queuing area off Aldwin Lane. So traffic on South Ithan Avenue will be southbound only to Meadowwood. And that'll have a major impact for the residents in the area, but should not have a negative effect on people coming to the area. Again, some key posts that are going to be manned. Any of those red squares are going to be an officer in conjunction with either a National Guard officer assisting or other resources. And it's just a pictograph of what we anticipate. Any questions on what was presented to you so far?
I just want to add two things. As Sergeant Smith articulated, that this morning we had a meeting with the business community, and everybody's welcome to all three of the meetings. And today was the educational facilities. But the big emphasis on closing that Amtrak underpass was the pedestrian safety, and that may be transitional. If If we feel that there's no traffic or when there's the lull, we will definitely open it. We want to try and keep things open. But basically, these road closures should start, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 a.m.? So 2 a.m. on going into the morning of Saturday, we should have that. But the reason we were doing that is for simply pedestrian safety and the amount of people that were there. So it's not because we're trying to control the flow of traffic or SEPTA's altering the plan of Radnor Township. We think in reference to public safety and pedestrian safety. We've been approached by 2 or 3 businesses that had some special parking concerns. We've worked each one of those out this morning. And if any of you have any special situations, please get a hold of us after the meeting, and we'll ensure that we can do the best we can for you to make sure there's no impact in regards to that. So I did want to clarify that. Also, Sergeant Smith will be putting this presentation out. It'll go onto our website, and there'll also be a very simplistic one for visitors who aren't interested in the details of Radnor Township overall, but are coming to those 2 stations. There'll be a 5 or 6, I'm coming to Radnor, these are my 2 stations. They'll be able to click on it, look at the maps that George created, and this way it'll make their travel time decrease by knowing exactly where to go, where to meet. And if any of you have any questions, you'll be calling into Sergeant Smith in the EOC, and we'll get any problem fixed in a lifetime mannerism. So I just wanted to point that out. We're gonna go into the question and answer session. Ask Andy, George, and myself are sort of the flag team to handle it. Does anybody have any questions? Well, actually, we're lucky to have the fire chief here, but we have worked together. We know Lower Marion's plans. We know our plans. So emergency services and fire service, Chief McGuire, correct me if I'm wrong, have all been beefed up, if you want to address that at all.
Yes, I've talked to Fire Chief Bryn Mawr and Dan Kincaid, and we've talked about what we're going to do. We have ramped up having volunteers in station. I know for Radnor Fire Company, we also have career staff that'll be in there so that there's no disruption of the EMS service. The fire service, we should get out pretty quickly. Our concerns were with the traffic, with the volunteers getting to the station, so we're going to have them there ahead of time. So the response time ought to be pretty good. We'll have some real-time information going back and forth between the EOC and the fire company to know what roads are congested, what roads we should take to get to certain emergencies. So I don't think there's going to be a disruption at all for as far as the emergency services are concerned.
And it would just be simply call early, and if you're anticipating a problem or a power outage, we're going to have our whole team respond to that area and come up with an analysis. I also wanted to mention the township manager has instructed the Public Works Division to be in high strength. So where a tree comes down, normally sometimes we have to bring people in. That's not a big deal because the roads are open with the exception of that area. We have a full complement of staff in that will rapidly assess and attack any problem that comes up, such as a road closure. We have generators and several things to keep the traffic lights up and running. So that has also been pre-thought of as well. There's another question? 5:30 is when both train stations are supposed to start moving, and that's in a perfect world because there's a lot of different parts to that. Up to 900 people at a time will be departing each station on the Paoli-Thorndale line, so that's exactly when it's supposed to start. So we anticipate people getting there at least an hour ahead of time.
For the EOC for Radnor Township, we're working 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. So we're trying to be on the front side of it, make sure all of our message boards are in place, make sure all the messages are proper instead of left turns, right turns. So we'll be ahead of this. The pre-planning has been beneficial for us in regards to it, and that's what we want to implore to you is a little pre-planning goes a long way with your staff, telling them that SEPTA is going to have a difficult time with bus routes out here. They're still in a little bit of flux, changing the overall aspect when it comes to what resources are coming out to us. Like I just learned 2 hours ago that we're getting more train cars, which is very beneficial for us because that means less people waiting. And as you're well aware, the longer you're waiting in a queue, depending on if it's a good weather day or a bad weather day, and fingers crossed it's a good weather day, not a big deal, but a bad weather day, rain or humidity, tempers tend to flare, even on an event like this. So we want to minimize the conflicts as best as we can. Any other questions? Sir?
How come St. Edmunds is not arbitrary? Our big question is that Saturday and Sunday, is that 100? Will we still get staff coming in?
No. No. Yeah, Saturday and Sunday, right now, SEPTA is saying they're pulling people out of their pool zone and either getting them to 69th Street and then going back in and getting more people out. So that was their main thing. And that, it's a influx because they don't know you're in the city if people are going to stay, going to have dining or come out. They do have a firmer idea on Sunday. After the Mass, people are figuring they're going to be a huge exodus out of the city. So we're planning more for that. Saturday is that question mark, unfortunately. Joe?
Anyone attempting to enter the perimeter that you guys are establishing around the triangle, Radnor, Chester, Route 30, and King of Prussia Road, is there any special permits, documentation that they can flash to the officer? Perhaps he may not know that, somebody's on third shift that evening. Anything special of them, other than their uniform or?
It's a case-by-case basis to breach that. We want to work with the public because obviously it's a major concern for them getting home or getting to work. But for us, pedestrian safety is the key. It all starts from there. If we can't get them safely across the road, we're not doing our job. And so it's a case-by-case basis, and we defer to the incident commander on scene, the operational commander, and the officer's intelligence. Sir?
You mentioned putting some of these screens, which is online, so you can see the exact road closures. When do you anticipate having that up and ready?
After these meetings, later tonight, they'll be up. Sir?
King of Prussia Road reopens when?
Well, that's a flexible. We want to get it open as quickly as possible, in all honesty. If we can open it after noon on Saturday and after noon on Sunday, we're going to try and do that, as long as the pedestrian flow is not there. So we want to reestablish normal operations as quickly as possible. Anything else? Ma'am? The train that goes to Paoli picks up everything at Paoli and goes into the city. The train that comes to Radnor, and again, it was just to be a 6-car train. I believe it's now upped to at least 7 or 8. So our numbers are supporting this for SEPTA. The SEPTA numbers that we're given are close to what we're forecast. Paoli is another high area. Both Paoli and us are probably the 2 busiest stops. So, separate trains, not stopping. Now, on the way back, when you come out of the city, you will be stopping at Radnor, disembarking, and then going to Paoli, disembarking. So they're given that flexibility right now. Yes, ma'am.
On Monday, Senator Road is not reopening until noon. Are you anticipating a problem with traffic and people leaving the city and our ability to get school buses to?
No, our main goal is to reestablish normalcy as quickly as possible. So the quicker we can get people out of the city, back to their cars, and then on the roadway back home, the better it is. We are theorizing that we're going to be able to pare people down, but that's an option left available to us. So if we're paring people down, situations going in a positive direction means the roadways are going to be opened. So we're not going to pare down people and staff as long as we have roadways closed and detours in place. So.
And then to our friends at Cabrini, just, we will probably open the roads as long as we can for that break, but when everybody returns, it will close again. So you're going to have to be prepared for change. We're going to try and open it because we think that's more convenient to the community, but that'll be going into the EOC. One of the things that happened today following our business meeting was there's a lot of question about what will be open and what will be closed in the township. The public information officer, Mr. Tate, was authorized by the township manager. We're going to do a very simple survey of all the businesses, school, anybody who wants to participate. It's a voluntary thing where you would list that you're open, closed, and the hours of operation, whether it be a school, a restaurant, some type of business, and that will be posted just the week of the event so that if you have changes in the next week or so, you'd be able to address that. So that is something that we just added today following our business community meeting, and I think it'll help lend to any traffic or different openings. And then Suzanne, one of the concerns is that SEPTA may have issues on what type of schedule. They're calling a snow schedule, a weekend schedule on Monday. So for those of you who need public transportation, keep this SEPTA website handy because Monday may have an impact on you getting certain staff to work. So you definitely, just because it's Monday morning doesn't mean everything's going to be cleaned up or it's going to go back to normal. It could all be fine and everything could be great. We hope that's the way it is, but definitely want to have some type of contingency plan for that. We did want to articulate, the superintendent wanted to make sure you're aware. Some of the municipalities in the 5-county region asked for support. The National Guard did offer free support, which means we don't have more of a cost center bringing staff in. So the superintendent has authorized us. We're waiting for confirmation, or we are confirmed. All right, Sergeant Smith lets me know we are confirmed that we will have National Guardsmen on the ground. Their specific mission we're going to keep confidential, but you will see military uniforms on the ground in Radnor Township and also some of the other communities. So I don't want anybody to be alarmed. They're going to help with traffic duties. We're also going to keep a diligent watch over our, what we call a soft target, where there's a lot of people. So we just want to let everybody know in the beginning that you may see that. Again, if you have a question, call in our EOC. You'll get in touch with Sergeant Smith or whoever's relieving him, and you'll get firsthand information. Lieutenant Block and I are working 24-hour zones. We'll be responding out and making any quick decisions as they go to make sure there's no delay in service.
Is there an anticipated time when the school will be reopened, or is it set, or is it wait and see what happens?
And Georgia went to a meeting today. I understood it was transitional. Their goal is to open it as soon as possible, but the fear is they don't know how quickly they can clean up. I believe they're calling the grid, or now Pope Francis's open area. They have to break that down and open up the exits, and that's just the timeline has not been specifically defined for us yet. But they want it open as soon as possible, though. There's no question about that.
The question is with the New Gulf Children's Center, and it may affect many of you, is about your employees, your staff coming out after the event on Monday morning. And she's wondering if you'll be able to get across City Line Avenue. At this point, we have reason to believe, yes, you will be, that cross traffic will still be permitted to come out. But again, it's situational, and you'll have to maintain vigilance with your social media as well as the television media and whatnot. And KYW, just to make sure that it's open. But that's considerations for throughout the weekend. If you have staff that you need coming out and they're coming from the city, just keep in mind the public transportation is severely affected for the general population if they're not attending the event. You can't get on the Paley Thorndale and get off at the Villanova or the Rosemont station, and the same thing we already answered with the high speed line. And there's limited bus routes that are running that day as well.
The one thing that the township manager asked one of the local hotels if they were completely booked. They did say they had a lot of cancellations. So as businesses, extended care facilities, or schools, there may actually be opportunity to house people at local facilities. If you truly have a hardship, George Smith will be at the back. We will try and work something out for you, staging area, someplace people can hang out. We'll get it done some way or another for you. So if you do have a hardship, please meet us in the back of the room, and we'll see what we can do to help you through to ensure you're operational Monday or the weekend, whatever you need. Any other questions? I'm sorry.
Can you just confirm that King of Prussia Road will be closed between Madison Ford and Lancaster Avenue? That's the only section?
It's going to be, really, if you look at it from Radnor, Chester to Matson's Ford, to be very specific, people from Belrose, the restaurant, residents on that street, we're going to have an officer there, as Sergeant Smith pointed out. You'll be able to traverse there. You're just really not going to be able to go under the bridge. So, and if there's any problem, an incident commander will be there, we will work it out. You know, if you have some crazy load or something, we will do some type of security analysis, we'll make an on-site decision, or if you need an escort all the way around, we'll get it done. So we have some motorcycles on, some ATVs, so we have a lot of different mechanisms besides our police cars that are going to be on hand for this event as well. Yes, ma'am.
For the lower part of King of Prussia Road, off Lancaster Avenue, Penn Lane, will be two-way.
That is correct. That will be two-way. And just so you know, the left-hand turn lane, so if you're going eastbound on Lancaster Avenue, will be blocked. You can't turn left onto Radnor Chester Road. The long and short is there'll be multiple boards, which you saw, which will let you know which way to go. But there will also be officers or assistants at those locations to redirect you. The only reason we're doing that is we want to keep Lancaster Avenue flowing based on Lower Merion and Tredyfferin's problems as well. We're trying to keep everybody moving. And please grab the handouts. We'll be in the back. We'll make sure you know about our township alerts, transportation handouts, and other things. And thank you for attending.